Good afternoon to everyone joining us here in Istanbul and to those who are watching our live stream around the world. We are halfway through our first day at the World Seed Congress, and I'm delighted to be moderating this session, Resilient and Nutritious Food and Feed Value Chains, the Role of the Seed Sector. We want the next hour to very much serve as a discussion forum, hearing contributions from key stakeholders across the seed, food and grain sectors and how they can work together to reduce the environmental footprint of our food while providing better food quality and nutrition for consumers and improving food safety and traceability. Together, our panellists will identify shared responsibilities and next steps to impactful, inclusive progress across the supply chain. And let's meet our panellists. We have Aidan Connolly, President of Agritech Capital and IFAMA. We have Didier Bergeret, Director of Sustainability at the Consumer Goods Forum. And we have Mert Dalagan, Head of the Commercial at Retailer Metro in Turkey. I'm going to come to Aidan first. Can you share with everybody a little bit about the future of agriculture, some of the big challenges you're seeing and the innovations ahead?
Thank you. Thank you, Claire. Certainly would very much appreciate the opportunity for this. I don't think I've ever been in a setting like this where you're not sure whether you should be looking in front of you or behind you. But let's assume that anyway we're thinking about the future. Everything I'm going to say, I'll just say in the first minute, is in my book. So I have a book called The Future of Agriculture. It's a free book, just in case you're worried about having to pay for it. You download it for free. And it is in Spanish, Portuguese, Chinese. You can find it on the Agritech Capital website, though I think Amazon UK have it as well. I am a person who's very optimistic about the future of agriculture. Despite what I read in the Guardian newspaper and the New York Times, it looks like people still want to eat food. They still like eating food, and we appear with more and more people on the planet, we are going to have to produce more of it. I'm also very optimistic about the role and the potential of technology. The technology we heard about today, gene editing, CRISPR, maybe we could communicate better on it, but I'm very optimistic about the power of that technology. When I think of the soil microbiome, the fact that there are, they say, 8 billion microorganisms in a tablespoon full of soil. So a tablespoon contains as many microorganisms as we see people on the planet. And we're learning more and more about what that is. So to coin or to use the phrase that Donald Rumsfeld used to say there were known knowns and unknown knowns and unknown unknowns. We're discovering, I think, in agriculture, lots of unknown unknowns. So we're discovering lots of things that data, sensors, and even AI are allowing us to interpret. And I think that we do have some extraordinary changes coming. Until this point in history, people have made choices about what they eat. I do think we're going to see more choices being made in other ways. The Ozempic, GLP, the first drugs we see, can reduce your consumption of calories by 800 calories per day. That's fairly extraordinary, and we hear that as many as 10% of the population could be on those drugs. Of course, you know, things may come along that we don't know, but at this point in time, that looks like that could be game-changing. The technology I'm most excited by and also most scared by is artificial intelligence. And as much as I would love to have ChatGPT give the answers now that I'm giving to you, I'm sure it'd give it much better than I would. The reality is that, as famous Seth Godin, he's written a lot of books, he said, artificial intelligence, it's not artificial, and it's not intelligent. And having run an AI company myself for 3 years, looking at cows and livestock, there's a lot of truth in that. There's still a lot of human input into AI, but AI is the glue. It's the transformative technology in everything we do, from seed selection to precision agriculture to precision nutrition in humans. So I hope that's an appropriate amount of time to give the answer, but there's some of my initial thoughts.
Thank you, Aidan, and I'm sure we'll get our teeth into some of those new technologies and innovations later on. Didier, I'm going to come to you next. Are you able to share a little bit about your work in areas such as sustainability, food safety, transparency throughout our supply chains?
Yes, sure. very happy to be here. I don't know if it works.
Oh.
It takes a second.
It takes a second. Okay, fair enough.
It's
So
warming up to our
I
voices.
said I don't need to yell then, so that's better for the audience. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. I work for the Consumer Goods Forum, which, if you don't know, it's actually not a problem because we're not meant to be known. But we represent, as part of the topic in the value chains, literally everyone that would buy and sell what you produce. So I work for large companies all gathered into one association, retailers and manufacturers, the likes of Walmart, Metro, Migros, Auchan, Carrefour, Tesco, you name it, that all decided to team up with the manufacturers such as Mars, Nestlé, L'Oréal, Procter & Gamble, literally everything that is food and non-food and that you can find on retail shelves. And they got together at CEO level to actually work on pre-competitive issues that can drive efficiencies within our industry so as to tackle some of the challenges, but also to make sure that we are as well a resilient part of the value chain. And so the reason why it's actually great for us to be here is that literally we always talk about working from farm to fork on many issues such as food safety, climate change, plastic, etc., etc. Here with this conference and this forum, we can actually work from seed to fork and actually literally make the connections from the beginning of the value chain to the end consumer that we engage with and that we try to provide nutritious and resilient food. Now, the reality is that we have had some success, notably in making food safety something, I would say it's never perfect, but at least given the amount of food that is shared globally every day, there are actually food safety diseases. So we're doing a good job at that, but we constantly need to be better. And my organization has been fostering the development of things such as the barcode, which was scary at the time, I guess, especially for people working in marketing, saying, how can you force me to put this ugly black and white thing on my packaging that I spent hours to design? But the reality is that today, everything today was on a barcode, so it's becoming a given. I hope, as per aid and comment, that AI will become the right given that allows for us to drive those efficiencies alongside the value chain so that when we try to make food safety the norm, but also human rights and environmental due diligence the norm for our industry, we can benefit from those efficiencies, ensuring that the price tag is actually, we would say, limited and becomes something that is affordable for everybody, because it does make sense for the entire value chain to actually apprehend and integrate the challenges such as climate change or food safety or food security. We need, though, to find very big efficiencies so as to guarantee that nobody is actually excluded from that. And we represent altogether accumulated sales of 3.3 trillion a year. It's quite big, but there is much to say that most of it starts here because the seed sector is actually such an essential part. So let's work on this together and make sure that our value chains are as inclusive as possible and that we can, from retailer expectations to the seed sector, cascade down reasonable ways of doing things better so that we can provide resilient and nutritious value chains, including the seed sector.
Thank you, Didier. And Mert, I'm going to come to you. You're obviously working with the Metro here in Turkey. Can you share a bit of the local retailer experience and how expectations of our customers are changing?
First of all, as a Turkish people, I would like to say big welcome to Turkey, big welcome to Istanbul. Istanbul is the capital of the Eastern Roman, Byzantine and Ottoman Empire. And we have a very connected roots for the history. And also now we are standing at the crossroad of Europe, Africa, Middle East, and the Black Sea. And it's a very big pleasure to say we are at the gateway to world. And today our topic is resilient food. And now we are at one of the most resilient country, despite big earthquakes, economical crisis, food inflation, and many wars surrounding us, we are, despite, stable. The reason is why, when we look at the why there is almost no homeless or hunger in Turkey, because these lands are feeding people for 12,000 years, from Göbekli Tepe to today. and we are able to plant a first seed to soil and wait. In maybe more than thousands of years in Anatolia, people started to plant seeds and selecting, preserving, and managing the seeds. And I think the managing the seeds is one of the most important revolution in the history. And now we are very close to history. And today I would like to add the retail perspective and customer perspective to this forum. And I have been working for retail for 20 years, 10 years Tesco and 10 years Metro experience. Now I am leading the Metro's new initiative retail brand, Bonveno. Bonveno is the first convenience retail chain in Turkey, and which is very important. And sometimes we describe Bonveno as a seed. And this is the planted for the Turkish retail market and rooted to proximity, speed, and fast shopping for customers. And also, in the last year, we opened 52 stores, and by the end of the year, we will reach 100 stores with convenience retail. With the help of this initiative, now we are too close to customers compared to years ago. And when we look at the customers' first priorities is aging, obesity, and the immunity after the post-pandemic environment. Concerns are linked to functionality, accessibility, and the healthier choices. And in this context, when we look at the functionality is very linked to seed companies, and accessibility is the retailer's role, and also healthier choices is the dual role for seed and retail companies to increase the awareness and the knowledge of the customers. And also, if we make the right decisions, it's very good opportunity to move civilization forward. And as a retailer, accessibility means the being accessible, convenience, affordable, and the offering the right products. And when we look at the customers, what want to buy, they actually prefer the much better, healthier solutions, quick solutions, and fresh solutions. And for this reason, we are building our ecosystem according to all of these. Retail is the edge of the big transformation in terms of ways of working. And maybe most of us knows Japan's are maybe decades ahead of the rest of the world in convenience retail. And when we look at the reason behind of this magic, it's mainly driven by efficiency and ethic. And when we look at the efficiency in operation, supply chain, and the production, and we're building all of these things in discipline and respect. And artificial intelligence in the near future will solve the many efficiency problems in retail side. Maybe optimizing the routes, optimizing the production, optimizing the many things. And we should be ready for this transformation, and we will ready for the customer needs.
Thank you. But of course, at the start, I did say this is not going to be a forum discussion, and I've been well informed there are various actors from across the food field in the room, and I'd love to hear some contributions from them just now. I believe we've got Winnie Wambugu in the audience. If we can get a microphone over to her, please. Winnie is a farmer, potato ambassador. Winnie, are you able to share some of the work you're involved in building resilience in Kenya's potato industry? But also you're an engine ambassador. Why are young people, why do they have an important role to play in these discussions? Thanks, Winnie.
Hello.
Are you working?
All right. Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Winnie Wambugu. I am from Kenya and an engine ambassador. And I do run a startup called Nakuru Tubers. And this was actually founded from my master's research. And our main mandate is to produce certified seed potatoes. And we are focusing on the climate resilient varieties. And through these, we are able to produce varieties that are born through aeroponics, tissue culture, and hydroponics, ensuring that we are able to produce seed throughout the year. Our seeds are disease-free, and they're also high-yielding. And in addition to producing seed, we also ensure that we train farmers, smallholder farmers in Kenya, on the use of good quality seed. We do have a big challenge when it comes to farmers. They tend to recycle their seeds, and this becomes a problem in the sense that, number one, you're able to increase the chances of disease spread, and number two, the more you recycle the seed, the more the quality goes down. And due to these challenges, we've been able to capacity build about 12,000 smallholder farmers, and we're including young people, we're including women, we're also including indigenous communities, training them on how they can be able to select good seed as well as preserve seeds. On the second question on how to involve young people, I believe that through such forums, we have the ISF, we have the WFF coming in, and also through the Engine Ambassadors Program, we're able to be included in such spaces where we can raise awareness on including young people when it comes to policies, including young people to be able to raise their voices and shout out their problems. And we're able to get solutions when it comes to seed and also involvement in the agricultural space. We also have a lot of young people being in the digital world, and a lot of digital transformation is happening currently. And so young people have a very big mandate when it comes to utilizing technology to be able to integrate them not only in seed production and also in agriculture in general. And it will be good if we have more of young when it comes to utilizing technology in a good way, not only in agriculture, but in other sectors across the value chain when it comes to marketing, when it comes to also aggregation or moving seeds from one point to another. And finally, we do require mentorship. We do require support from the people who've been in the industry for so long. We do need your mentorship. We do need coaching so that we can be able to push on. Even when we are almost giving up, we do need that final support. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Winnie, for your contribution. We'll do a round of applause. And just to say, talking about mentorship, I do believe there's going to be a speed networking session at the Youth Generation Corner tomorrow afternoon, which would be wonderful to get a good show of people coming up to meet some of the young people we saw earlier in the opening ceremony. But I'm going to bring in another individual from our audience just now, Mustafa Khalik. If we could please bring a microphone over. Mustafa is Head of Research and Development for Sunar Agricultural Trade Company. Mustafa, can you share how companies like Sunar are embracing innovation to meet changing consumer needs and expectations? Thank you, Mustafa.
Thanks, Claire. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge a special significance of today. This is 19th of May, and this is a national day for Turkey. This is Youth and Sports Day. This is a dedicated day to young people by our founder, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. And I'm very happy to see young people in here to share their thoughts, to share their actions in this room with us. Because Atatürk believed in the power of the youth to shape the better future, and also we, not only for Sunar, but also for the industry, we believe that young minds will lead transformation of agriculture and the food system across the globe. And when I come to your point, Sunar and our industry is mostly focused on outcome of the seed itself. The industry that using the raw materials as seed, they made a good traceability, and they take the account that the variety changes after the harvesting. But also this is a critical thing because we expect not only good quality, but also stable outcome from the field. So it's much more easy for us to process it. And after the process, of course, we have to take into account the trends in the market. And the innovation that we are doing, the research that we are doing is not only creating a new product, but also making it sustainable way, because as our intake is coming from the nature, we need to give it back.
Thank you, Mustafa.
Thanks.
And I was going to come back to Mustafa as well, because I know that you have previously worked in the grains and commodities industry. I was wondering you could share a little bit of a perspective from that in terms of building resilient and nutritious food chains.
I've been more than 20 years in the industries that take the raw materials as seed. And most of these industries work very closely with the farmers. They stay nearby them, they stay nearby the seed companies, and also they always be in the field, especially starting from the starting point, and then also collect the information. They support the farmers, they somehow build their own trust bridge. For us, for Sunar, our founder is a farmer, and he's Merhum Nuri Çomu. And he's also holding an agriculture engineer degree with a Master of Science, which is very early stage in Turkey in the region. So he trusts always in farmer, and he told us that when he's with us, he told us that we built this plant to support the farmers. So what the industry is doing is we keep eye on not only the seed sector, but itself, we support them in the scientific way, in technical way, and also when we get the results from the field, we also share with them, because it's two-way communication between them, and this is all standing on trust.
Thank you, Mustafa. And I also believe, I know she might be sitting behind me, but could we also get a microphone over, please, to Tamara Murutagoynia, who is the Vice President of Sustainability at the International Fresh Produce Association. Tamara, what are some of the key priorities in the fresh produce sector from a global perspective in ensuring we have healthy food chains?
What a great question. I guess this is warm up to, okay, now it is. Hello, everyone. So from a global perspective, the fresh produce, so that is fresh fruits, vegetables, but also we represent flowers around the world. A sustainable supply chain starts with the seeds, then to growers onwards, to all the way to consumers. So some of the key topics are, of course, regenerative agriculture, the umbrella for sustainable agriculture and good farming practices. Moving on to social responsibility, ensuring that there's a fair treatment of labor. And then moving to climate change. Climate change is everywhere, but we have to work on a adaptation, but also on a mitigation standpoint. And then we have food waste, which is intrinsic to our industry because we sell fruit, fresh products. And last but not least, one of the most complex topics, which is packaging. So those are kind of the...
Thank you so much, Tamara. And I'm going to come back to my panel here in the centre of the studio. And I guess given we've just heard from some different actors across the food and feed supply chain, and we would love to hear from some more as we go on, I'm going to ask all of you here just briefly to touch on why it is so important that we're bringing together different actors to reduce the environmental footprint of our food while improving the likes of food quality, food safety and nutrition. Didier, I'll put that one to you first.
Well, I mean, if I was just to take one example of where we are still doing wrong, food waste.
Yeah.
So 1/3 of everything that gets produced gets wasted. And that's not everywhere. It's at all steps of the value chain until the final consumer. But we do have a fair responsibility to actually make that better and work on this efficiently. We can't have like sort of conflicting issues. One, we generate food waste too much, but at the same time, we can't feed everyone. So we need to be mindful of those issues, acknowledge those, but then commonly share so that everyone at each step of the value chain can actually see where they can bring their own value, where they can bring their own solution to some identified problem. And this is where effectively in terms of social sustainability or environmental sustainability, we need to make sure people see the positive impact it can have at all steps of the value chain. I think the smallholder and the young generation engagement is actually crucial. Smallholders, farmers today are the ones that can be left out of the bigger value chain. And most of the people that actually suffer from hunger are the ones producing the food we eat. So once again, we need to address this duality. We need to make sure we provide some solutions and that we can guarantee that people that deliver the food we eat are actually able to afford themselves and access the food as well, so that we can target those challenges. And they can be daunting. This is a reality, though, that we need to accept, so that we can, with optimism, as mentioned by Aidan, address those and work together, not only across the value chains, but also with governments, regulators, institutions, and actually deliver what works for people and planet. And there is fair share of optimism to have in this room, not only because of AI, but also because of the will to actually connect with the International Fresh Produce Association, the International Seed Federation, ourselves at the Consumer Goods Forum. We represent such a big share of what society is today. So if we connect, commit, and work together with a high level of resolve when it comes to eradicating some of the challenges we know of, we can probably do wonders.
Wonderful. Thank you, Didier. Aidan, would you like to pick up on any comments?
Well, I wasn't going to get into discussion this early, but I suppose we should have a go at it. One of the reflections I had thinking about what's going on with the seeds of potatoes in Kenya is I do come from a country 25% of the population died within 4 years of a blight that occurred in Ireland, and over the next basically century, but a little bit less, we lost another 25%. So the population plummeted from over 8 million to less than 3.5 million, and still hasn't recovered. So the country still doesn't have as many people as it did then. So that shows the centrality, the critical nature of seeds and disease and being able to secure the food supply chain. But equally, just to Didier, I'm sure you're encountering people who are food insecure. Sadly, most of the people I meet, including the ones in the room here, food has never been so cheap. In fact, in Ireland, the cost of food for people is something like 8.5%, including eating out in restaurants. So we're spending a tiny percentage of our income on food, and I feel that has made people very not caring, not understanding. The level of ignorance about where food comes from is enormous. And I would hesitate to say, because I'll say this, we're in the seed group today, but most people don't understand really what you do. And if I was in a group of feed producers, I'd say the same thing. So if we're going to explain why we're critical to sustainability, climate change, dealing with issues of droughts and issues of supplying, we have to work together. You cannot singly go, I'm the president of IFAMA, International Food Agribusiness Management. Our conversations about how do we change the opinions of consumers. We will not change the opinions of consumers. They're very ignorant about a lot of the things we do, but the only way we can possibly have some impact, all of the actors, all of the interested groups work together and don't work on our own. There's no way to change the opinions of 8 billion people otherwise.
In society, there's so much choice fatigue now for consumers, and people aren't always sure what terms like sustainability means. And even your points there around communicating. I mean, I'm often, when I'm speaking to people not within the agricultural industry, I often worry, are we patronising? Are we over-educating the consumer? How are we really building trust? And I guess maybe to sort of move on to that question next, how do we begin to actually communicate so people do know and they can make those more informed choices? I mean, Mer, you'll see with some of your consumers, how do we sort of bridge those knowledge gaps?
Before explaining to this, I would like to add some points. Actually, many times retailers have more data than governments or more insight than governments. And for this reason, collaboration between this value chain is so important. We understand the customers, we listen to customers, we collect data and the insights together. For this reason, many times flow likes a supply and demand. Flow like firstly we supply the fruit and veggies and wait for demand, but it should be reversed. And for your question, actually convenience retail bring us to more closer to customers, and we are now actually I can summarize our observings. Actually, customers are looking for functionality in food, and they want to from food to support their daily life and their lifestyle goals. And actually, the customer asks, what will this food do for me? They expect protein-rich for muscles, fiber-rich food for digestion, and the vitamin-enriched food for immunity. And also customers ask, is it clean or trustworthy? And they are read more labels. They want to see less preservatives, less additives, and the meaningful ingredients. Also, customers asks for, can I consume it on the go? It's became a more time is becoming more valuable than before. Many times, customers consume on their cars, their working areas, and also while communicating with each other. And also they are looking for zero preparation, zero mass, and the more nutritious foods. And at that point, it's not fully about the minimalism. Also, customers don't want to waste food, and they are ready to support the. Also, customers want to eat sustainable and meaningful things, and also safe, nutritious, and sustainable alternatives. Retailers are waiting to serve, and for this reason, food to go trend is booming in Turkey, but not only Turkey; it's also globally, and also people choose more fast and more meaningful foods.
Mert, if I could, this sounds amazing to me. Because in Turkey, the first time I came, we talked a lot about people being hungry. You're now talking about, but a friend of mine, Jack Bobo, uses the phrase, people have never cared so much or understood so little about how their food is produced. And even the way perhaps we've used the word sustainability, Didi, sometimes I feel it's almost people, we've used it too much to justify anything. And in the end, the consumers aren't entirely sure what sustainability means, and then sometimes food companies in our business don't want to use the word sustainability. We think it's a bad word. We now want to change to ESG or resilience or... anyway, sorry, just to throw the questions back. What do you think, Didier?
I actually couldn't agree more, and that says a lot because I'm director of sustainability, so thank you for making me sound useless. But this is actually a reality, and I think that we tried really hard to make sense out of all of this. At some stage, we probably tried to educate the consumer. We tried to provide transparency using traceability, but in the end, we may have failed in actually engaging the consumer, but also because we probably have failed in engaging everyone in the value chain. You know that the first organization of the UN created after the war was the International Labour Organization. The first convention this institution has been working on is the Forced Labour Convention, just to stamp out slavery. These slaves as today in different forms in the entire planet in all sectors. So we are naturally exposed. There are like around 50 million people in forced labor. We estimate that directly involved in our value chains it could be about 12 to 14 million if you get rid of forced marriage and other practices. And all of these are things that are from the past but terribly modern today. And we need to also be able to acknowledge that and speak about those priorities so that we can, maybe without engaging the consumer at this stage, but at least be able to provide an answer. And it doesn't need to be, sustainability, because actually we're talking about basic things. Mm-hmm. Forced labor should be an issue of the past. It is an issue of today, and we owe to work on this. And this is where the promise of food as trustworthy that we want can be really, really defeated if there is one issue that surfaces. A CEO from a large retail told me that he was extremely surprised. Spring onions that were made in the US in one state, it's a premium product that they sell in their stores, and they realized just after checking that one of the farms was actually full of people in situations of modern slavery, with their passport retained, they were not being paid correctly, their living and working conditions were horrendous, and they also had to pay to get the job. Thank God, like, he could identify the problem, he could then remediate it, but it would have been a very difficult situation if this had been caught up by the media or an NGO. And then he would have to explain to the customers of his 6,000 stores that there was an issue and that they didn't see it. Now, there are going to be always issues because forced labor, for instance, is managed by criminal activities. And those guys are just better than us. That's it. So we need to accept that and see how we can anticipate, verify, make sure that everything from environmental protection to social sustainability is becoming the norm within our value chain. But that we are actually genuinely looking into those to find the appropriate solutions. And then to the consumer, you may have a more genuine speech rather than having to react to a scandal because you've been caught doing something you were not even aware of. So we just need to accept that, be genuine about it, humble, and yet still resolved in solving some of those problems that we know of.
Didier, thank you for sharing that very sombering message. I'm actually going to open up to the floor just now before I come back to the panel. If there's any questions or even contributions from different actors across the supply chain, if anyone would like to raise their hand and we can get a microphone to you. There's one behind me. You can get a microphone and you could introduce yourself to the room. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Manuel from a company called Priva. I have a question, whoever would take it, and if it's inappropriate, then leave it aside. Would there be any coordinated campaign towards more vegetable production within a value chain? Often we see that a company is doing that by himself, but is there any example there where there's a grouped effort to really, increase the veg consumption in a market or a certain country?
Merit, you'd like to take that one?
Yeah, I can give some examples from Metro. We are communicating our tomatoes like a local seed tomato. It's 100% local seeds. And we are giving the pre-buying promise for farmers. And we are coordinating with the seed companies. And we, as soon as possible, prioritize while selling. And also we are getting ready for the West also.
Didier or Aidan, would you like to pick up any comments?
I think that overall the industry is trying also to push for healthier baskets, healthier foods, and many retailers are teaming up with manufacturers to actually be able to orientate towards greater vegetable consumption, fruits and veg in general, healthier diet, and that's education that can only happen if we engage at consumer level through the retailers. And so we have concerted efforts around that. I think the local thing, the local argument is definitely going to be a new trend. More people want to actually eat local, but we need to be very careful because once again, we need to own that narrative, but it needs to be flawless. Because local doesn't mean good. Local, actually, it sounds good, but if in your production you actually overlooked some of the potential issues affecting your area, you may then end up being badly perceived by your consumers, and we don't want that. We really need to avoid, that's why this authenticity in the way we deliver, the fact that the more local you get, the better you know the people you engage with, and you actually you partner. And this partnership, I think, really makes sense and resonates well with most of the consumers. But it's also, again, one very efficient way to be resilient in the way you want to deliver nutritious food to your consumers, because there is tremendous value in it being able to say, well, the tomatoes are actually coming from here, they've been growing here, and they are delivered to you without having the impact of logistics, and they actually also support your local economy. So, of course, notwithstanding the fact that we need to be thinking global when it comes to value chains, because we can't produce everything locally. There are so many things we can actually support and foster when manufacturers, growers, and everyone gets together with retailers to say, this is actually coming from here, the consumer reacts well, and actually has also a perceived value in eating better and supporting people and planet at the local economy level.
Thank you. And Aidan?
Yeah, I love what the two others have said, but going to take a slightly different direction. This advent of Ozempic and GLP for me is going to be very significant. And I can criticize it and say why we don't know exactly what it's going to do long term, but it's beginning of a new way of thinking about food consumption. And we do know that it's driving increased consumption of protein and more foods which have not been further processed. It is a huge issue for those people producing food which are further processed. And we're talking about 10% of the population. I imagine the future with cheaper, better versions, it could be much bigger than that. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out in terms of the consumption of vegetables, how it maybe pushes us back to food which has not been processed. I do think that also we will see a greater influence of insurance companies in terms of pushing people to eat food which is good for their health. They're probably tired of basically funding obesity or should I say the effects of obesity. Maybe that's a little dystopian for some people, Big Brother, but I think it is part of the transparency we're going to see, where we will be basically paid to eat better, or we won't be penalized for eating badly.
Thank you, Aidan. Is there any other questions in the audience you can make me aware of? If not, I'm going to come to you, Mert. You've shared some amazing insights. You're spending a lot of time with your customers. Would be pretty fascinating to hear, what is the perception of seed companies by consumers?
Actually, to be honest, customers don't really know about the seed companies. Even many retailers don't really know about the seed companies, and they don't see a link between the healthy tomato and the seed behind it. And many times, actually, I believe seed sector is a very good story writer, but very bad storyteller. And actually, this is the reality. And for this reason, we have to work together so much. And previously mentioned about the education, and in urban areas, 80%, maybe 90% of the young generation don't see seeds in their lives. They see seeds in books, and this is the create a myth, and customers create their own truths, like hybrids are GMO, all new seeds are unnatural. And at that point, we have to increase the awareness of the customer. Customers don't know the reality behind the seeds. And also, another problem is there is almost no brand on the shelves for fruit and veg. No logos, no claims, no traceability, no any link between the producer and the customers. And for this reason, customers only believe what they heard. And at that point, the customers are demanding healthy choices, traceability and traceability, meaningful food stories, trust in what they eat. And also, what seed companies can support the retailers for, helping us to creating engaging, honest product stories, educating retailers and customers on seed-to-shelf value, and co-designing category communication and packaging, and also correcting misinformation and building trust. And because we work together, better seeds, better food, and better lives. And also, before we are closing the final stage, and as Mustafa mentioned, today is the very special for Turkish people. The 19th of May is the making the beginning of our national movement led by Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. And as he once said, the foundation of the national economy is agriculture. And his words are valid today for the entire ecosystem. And we plant is not just a seed, we plant hopes, sovereignty, and the progress.
Thank you, Mert. And Aidan, I'm going to come back to you. You mentioned in your sort of opening statement earlier about some of the new technology and trends that you are seeing. Is there anything that particularly the seed sector should be paying attention to? What new innovations are exciting you?
Seed technology should be concerned with everything, everything we've talked about. In terms of digital technologies, which are probably the potentially most transformative, we're very familiar with issues of labor, so robotics are going to become more important. It might be a surprise to everybody in the room, but people don't grow up wanting to pick strawberries, raspberries, grapes. It's not a job which is easy, and that's why in most countries immigrants do the job. So I think we're going to see more and more robotics. Sensors, I'm a huge fan of sensors, in particular for water. I think water is one of these conversations which is going to become bigger and bigger. So knowing exactly what the plant is detecting, absorbing, using, and then micro-irrigation systems for me are a no-brainer. I don't know why we don't use them more. Well, I do, the cost and installation, but they can be transformative for small farms and also for large farms. I'm very excited by obviously having better data, artificial intelligence. The use of, you mentioned barcodes. I was really interested to see the use of QR codes being used in China, where the person can go into the store, they can use the QR code and see videos of how the food was produced. This is a grocery store called Hema, which is owned by Alibaba. So they've got about 14 stores in Shanghai. And anyway, the consumer has full transparency on how the food was grown. They show the video of the farm, how the food was produced, food additives that were used in the process, etc. So that technology of connecting from seed to feed is for me very, very exciting. I want to pick up on something Didier said. We've got to be very careful with false narratives. To say something is local, if we're producing 5 vegetables and putting it on a truck and bringing it 20 kilometers to the village, that's not sustainable. So if we have a good story, we're talking about the problems of fertilizer. Fertilizers are massive issues we know going forward. Sometimes we microencapsulate the fertilizers. When we explain that to consumers, they say, great, so slow release fertilizer. We're doing it with plastics. So when we start into that conversation, consumer says, well, wait a second, less volatile fertilizer, but you're putting plastics in my soil. So all of these things, we just need to think through step 1, step 2, step 3. Consumers are not stupid. They understand when they ask these questions. And when they ask the second, when you offer them a solution to one, but the next thing is worse than the first, we just have to be very careful how we use technology and make sure it needs to be for the right reasons. It needs to be for the right reasons.
Thanks, Aidan. How exciting some of that technology you are seeing in China. Do you think that you can actually see how that food is produced in terms of the conversations around transparency, building trust? Quite excited what is coming down the track. Didier, I'm going to come back to you with your work with the Consumer Goods Forum. And can you share a little bit about how CGF is nudging the seed industry towards more sustainable practices and improving transparency?
Well, today we are not enough, right? And as rightly mentioned, and I'm very sorry because we don't want to be insulting here to the audience here, but it's true. The seed industry deserves to be better at storytelling and better at including itself in the value chains. There is so much greatness in what you guys do, but you need to have the right narrative, humble, never overpromise, and benefit from everything that has already been done in so many other stages in our value chain. If I think about food safety, it's really an important. It can't be a promise. It's a must. You can't sell food and with the potentiality that it will get you sick or worse. So the same thing should apply to sustainability. I would say social and environmental sustainability, because we can do it, and they are at stages, the very early stages of our industry, starting with the seed sector. So many things that are actually designed to ensure resilience, ensure sustainability, probably also ensure inclusivity thanks to the way things are being produced. And so this is what we need to be able to say. But we also need to make sure that we have the safeguards that things are good enough. And this is where, when it comes to food safety or social and environmental compliance, we do tend to work a lot with labels, with standards, with audits, with certifications. Those do not need to be made aware to the consumer, because this should be our common collective work endeavor, so as to guarantee that eventually at the consumer level everything is good enough. And if there are questions, then effectively I can access some information thanks to a QR code that tracks back to the seed and explains me the whole story. This availability of information, I think, is tremendously important. It may not be used as much as you think, because I doubt most consumers are actually going to look into it. But what you want is that in case one of them looks into it, the information can be accessed. And this is exactly why what we try to engineer through retailer-manufacturer collaboration, but engaging now further down the value chain all of the actors, thanks to our partnership with the International Fresh Produce Association and the ISF, is really that we deliver on efficient sustainability. And this is where our job is to make sure retailers harmonize more the way they formulate expectations and the way they want those to be proven through audits, through verifications, through certifications, but that we make it efficient. And there is never one size fits all, but literally sometimes when you see the codes of conduct or things that you have to answer from retailer requirements, you're really facing a tomato type of dilemma. It's the same thing, just expressed differently. And so you need to do the provision of information over and over again. And this doesn't deliver on sustainability. I don't know anyone that can tell me, oh yeah, this report really saved my life. No, never. But the fact that we are producing such an, I'm not going to say useless, but let's say questionable amount of reporting, back again onto the table so that we can rediscuss ways not to verify, but to engage in the different processes, understand the realities from sure we adjust the requirements and we make them as harmonized as possible, so that as food safety, sustainability becomes the norm, and we can then talk about human rights and environmental due diligence, as this will be anyway the expectation from younger generation to regulators, and we better be safe than sorry by anticipating rather than reacting. But that can happen only if all of us together can discuss, agree, commit, and deliver.
Thank you, Didier. And just very briefly, Mert, when it comes from the retailer's perspective, who's going to pick up the tab for sustainability efforts? How much can retailers absorb?
Actually, many big retailers also working for sustainability. We have a sustainability report, and we have a big effort to maintain all the needs, from egg to fruit and veg to other stationary equipments up to. And honestly, especially for the fruit and veg, seed companies should more close to retailers. Retailers are more capable to connect with the customers, and many points we can create co-projects, and we can share data intentionally. Actually, many times also retailers are ready for many things and capable for many things, and we have a limited knowledge as customers don't have. And I suggest actually seed companies should be more close to retailers to create co-synergy.
Mert, thank you. And I'm actually going to invite a past president of ISF and chair of the ISF Value Chain Working Group, Edward Fito, to share some closing remarks with us, and also to share the next steps of the ISF Value Chain Group. Edward.
Thank you, Claire. Well, I think that the seed industry is doing well in general. It could always do better, but it's progressing, it's thriving, and I think in part it's due to the bonds and the relationship we have built with other organizations, always within the seed industry. And I think that the moment to start looking farther has come. So I think that we need to to see further, to see that there are other things and that we need to, I think that we share the horizon because we share the mission, we share the vision, and if we share the vision, as you can see on the screens now, which is basically to feed the world in a sustainable way. You guys, you have said a lot this word today, and if this is our final destination and we share that, that means that we can be travel mates. We can do the journey together. We can, but we have to, and that's the way I think. We can no longer be just alone. We have isolated. We have to work together. And there are a lot of examples. You mentioned a lot here. Either if we are in the commodities, you have to make sure that those commodities remain commodities, and we not complicated life to grain traders and so on, labeling those when there is no added value, for instance. And if we want to create differentiation also, we need to make sure, Mustafa, you mentioned the brand. Also, Didier, you talk about slavery, waste. So we need also to create added value. Added value means differentiation. We have to increase the margin. We have to make sure that everybody across the value chain makes money. So I think it's imperative, it's paramount that we go together to this final destination, which is to feed the world in a sustainable way. Just to finish, thank you very much for being here. It's an honor. When this coordination group, the value chain coordination group, was created, we didn't know how to do it, but the fact that you are here, everybody, so that really proves that it has an interest. So thank you very much, not just for being here, but also for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Edward, for your comments, and thank you to everyone for your contributions this afternoon. And can we please thank, in the natural way, Aidan, Mert, and Didier for their time this afternoon. Thank you. And we're on. Thank you. Aidan.